What is up, NPBF fans and coaches? My name is Jeff. As you guys know, I am not actually a part of this recap. I just wanted to hop on real quick as I am working on the edits and everything and getting everything together for you guys. That I am hugely appreciative of the rest of the admin team. They were scrambling for the past week when I was sick, and I didn't have the voice to do this. They were scrambling to find someone to get this recorded and find time to get it done, and I really, really appreciate them. Alex did a fantastic job. I've already watched through all the recordings, and he did a fantastic job. I'm really, really appreciative of it, so I'm very much looking forward to presenting this to you guys. So, just wanted to shout out my admin team. Alex, you're the GOAT for this week. Nate, providing as much assistance as he could from afar. I'll very much appreciate you. You guys are all fantastic. Love you guys. But let's just go ahead and get you guys into the recap itself.
What is going on, NPBF fans and coaches alike? This is Alex back again from week 1, filling in for Jeff, bringing you the week 3 recap. Apologies for a bit of a delay. We decided to extend week 4 due to the Thanksgiving holiday, and between work and conflicting schedules, just wasn't able to get the time to record until now. Hopefully, once we get to week 4 and start branching out beyond the divisional matches, we'll be able to start getting these back out at a more regular rate. But as I said, week 3 brings us to the final round of the initial division matchups. We'll go through all of these in the order that they took place. A lot of these are really close. A lot of these could be either party's game. And to start, we're going to look at Rennie and the LA Darkrai's versus Chris and the Nottingham Nihiligos. Rennie is bringing Granbull, Goodra, Talonflame, Mega Scizor, Weavile, and Aggron. And on Chris's side, we see Garchomp, Mandibuzz, Conkeldurr, Rotom Heat, Mega Alakazam, and Porygon 2. This is a Clash of the Titans, in my opinion, and let's just jump right in. To start, we see Rennie leading with Aggron and Chris Rotom Heat. He's just going to do the sensible lead play and Volt Switch out and send P2 in to a Stone Edge that it just eats up. P2 with the Discharge, not getting the Para, and Aggron just sets up rocks, which are going to be a problem for Chris later. P2 decides it's just going to keep doing Discharge, gets the Para on Scizor, which is very unfortunate, and he's just going to U-turn out onto the Rotom Heat, send Aggron back out there. Rotom Heat going for Overheat, and we lose Aggron right away. It's really unfortunate, but Rennie didn't really have anything that could have taken that anyway. Now we see Granbull with getting the Parad from Thunderwave, but revealing Heal Bell, which is going to be very useful against this team. Rotom just switching out into P2. Granbull unfortunately missing a Super Fang, which would have been really huge on Porygon to cut its HP in half. But now with Scizor out, we're going to see P2 just switch. It doesn't want to set up or get knocked off, and Mandibuzz come in instead. So he's just going to U-turn out into Weavile. Weavile's just going to eat the foul play, scare it out with an Ice move. But he stays in with Mandibuzz and takes the Icicle Crash, and down goes Mandibuzz, which means that Chris is going to have to deal with rocks on his side of the field, which Porygon's not going to like. Now we got Conkeldurr, not revealing a burn or toxic orb, so maybe he's not Guts. P2 switching into a Super Fang, but it's just going to recover it right off. Weavile getting the knockoff, so now Rennie isn't going to have to deal with the bulk nearly as badly. Living a Discharge so that Scizor can come in, and we see Garchomp. But Scizor's just going to U-turn out, take the rough skin damage, and send Weavile in. Just back to Porygon 2, though. Icicle Crash doing a lot more now than It would have before, but unfortunately he's orbed and Weavile goes down to orb. And here we see the problem with Rennie's team is Talonflame and Brave Bird everything since we're still in 6th gen, and Talonflame hasn't been nerfed. Gale Wings still goes through, no matter what the HP. So Talonflame able to net a huge KO against Porygon 2 and taking out one of the more troubling pieces of bulk on Chris's team to break through. Now we find ourselves with a stare down between fire types, Talonflame and Rotom Heat. Rotom taking rocks damage, but of course Talonflame's not going to want to take any electric moves, so Goodra just safely comes in. Eats the Volt Switch. Out comes Alakazam. Hits it for a decent chunk of damage with Muddy Water. Tracing Gooey, that's going to be interesting, while setting up a substitute. Psyshock doing a lot of damage, and Goodra unfortunately getting the para. Goes down to another Psyshock, and Scizor just comes in, U-turns out, breaks the sub, and out comes Talonflame, doing what Talonflame does best, clicking Gale Wings, Brave Bird. Does get the speed drop from Gooey, but that probably doesn't matter, because Brave Bird just hits with priority and kills everything. Rotom goes down resisted. Garchomp goes down not resisted, but from a fair amount of health. This is going to be a stab super effective hit on Conkeldurr, so it doesn't stand a chance. And that is the game. The Darkrai and Rennie picking up a huge 3-0 against Chris and the Nihiligos. This puts both teams at 2-1 for their division, but I believe Rennie does have a higher differential coming out of this game. Both guys brought really solid teams, but unfortunately, Rennie is just able to demonstrate why the Gale Wings was nerfed to only work when you have maximum HP post 6th gen. It's super good. I believe we saw Talonflame take out P2, Rotom, Garchomp, and Conkeldurr. So that's 4 KOs for Talonflame. This thing is ridiculous. Chris is going to bounce back. You know, he's proven here and elsewhere with some of the undefeated streaks he's been able to go on that he's not someone to be messed with. Rennie's a 4-time champion, so there is no shame in losing to Rennie, no matter what the score was, no matter how you played or didn't play. These two will have a rematch in the final week of the season, and that is definitely going to be an interesting game to look forward to. Next up, we have Eric and the East Coast Iga Slashers against Deshawn and the Bridgeport Sandacondas. Both of these guys coming into this game undefeated in their divisions, so it is certainly going to be a clash of titans to see who is the king of their respective division. On Eric's side, we have regular Scizor coming right off the heels of seeing Mega Scizor, Rotom Wash, Spiritomb, Mamoswine, Magmortar, and Mega Deontay. On Deshawn's side, we see Cinccino, Raikou, Arcanine, Skarmory, Blissey, and the Mega Medicham. Deshawn, just from looking at it, we see the bulk that he has been bringing for the last few weeks that has been really tough to break through. I'm sure Eric's coming in looking to finally be the one that is able to break through all the fat things that Deshawn has. And he could do it. He's got a lot of offensive things with the Scizor, the Mamoswine, Magmortar, not something to laugh at. Mega Deontay hitting really hard both physically and specially. Even Rotom, you don't really want to take a Hydro Pump from Rotom Wash. So let's see who the king of this division is. Starting off, we see a Rotom Washley against Cinccino. Rotom just not wanting to waste any time and burning the Cinccino, which was good for, it's good for Eric. Cinccino hits really hard, especially with Steel Link and Knockoff. The Bullet Seed not doing anything, but Rotom's just going to switch out into Scizor, and Cinccino knocking off the leftovers. Swapping out into Skarmory, and Scizor just U-turns out into Magmortar. Deshawn switching into Blissey, which is just going to eat any special hit, but Magmortar revealing Sub Punch, which in the past has been a demonstrated weakness for Deshawn, somebody setting up Substitute. And he's just going to go for the punch again, swapping into Skarmory this time, which eats the hit slightly better than Arcanine did. But it's just going to get leftovers recovery. Oh, back into Arcanine, predicting the Fire Blast correctly, but it still does a decent chunk. Landing 2 Fire Blasts in a row, Arcanine's just going to hit Morning Sun and not do anything. And just click the Morning Sun, predicting the switch. Out comes Mamoswine. Skarmory definitely coming in, predicting an Earthquake from Mamoswine, but Deshawn instead hitting Knockoff and losing the leftovers certainly isn't ideal in terms of preserving Sturdy for Skarmory, but surely he has Roost, and it won't be the biggest deal. Rocky Helmet on Arcanine being preserved is probably a lot more important to him. But now we see Magmortar on Eric's side come in for Skarmory, and he's just going to Roost while that switch occurs. Magmortar surprisingly doubling back out into Mamo, and Skarmory doubling out into Arcanine, getting off the Intimidate before just going back into Skarmory again, predicting that Earthquake. And it seems like Deshawn is just in Eric's head. Now Deshawn going for the tactics we've seen in the past few weeks, setting up spikes with Skarmory, switching into Blissey to eat the Fire Blast and just start clicking Seismic Toss. Now that Eric's not behind a sub, he's not really going to be able to land those Focus Punches. And while he does get the Flame Body burn, it's not really going to bother Blissey as he just swaps out on the Scizor. Goes out into Arcanine. Blissey gets the recovery. Rotom comes out, scares out the Arcanine, clicks Trick, gives Blissey a Choice Scarf, and takes away the leftovers, which is huge. Huge. Blissey essentially can't do anything now. Well, it can do one thing at a time, but it's not going to be able to sit there the way Deshawn likes to use it in the way most people would want to have it. Now we see Scizor come in, which is definitely going to scare out Blissey. If it's Swords Dance, if it's even packing Superpower, a Bullet Punch that's Technician and Stab boosted with the right attack investment, this is not a good time for Blissey right now. But Deshawn just stays in, clicks the Seismic Toss while he's after getting the Scarf, and sends in Arcanine on the switch to scare out Scizor and bring out Rotom, and revealing a Sunny Day while Rotom just switches. And I'm not sure any swap is really good. Revealing Solar Beam for Rotom, that's a really, really good tech. Now that Deshawn's shown that, Eric's going to have to think twice about sending in Rotom to be his answer to Arcanine, because not just Rotom, also Deontay. Deontay doesn't really want to take a Solar Beam. It'll live, but that's a whole chunk of damage to just get away with for free. So half of his team doesn't want to take a hit from Arcanine now, and then the other two, But Magmortar comes in, hits a Sun-boosted Fire Blast, and does a hefty 40% to Arcanine. Misses the second Fire Blast, which would have gotten the KO, but Deshawn's able to get the Sun-boosted Morning Sun and get himself back to full. Magmortar just going behind the sub, but the Flamethrower misses. Based on the chat, it looks like clicking Substitute from on Eric's end may have been a mistake, but I'm also thinking that's probably just his response to the Fire Blast missing. Actually, it's certainly to the Fire Blast missing, because if the Fire Blast had landed, Arcanine would be gone, and that would have been a huge wall for his team out of the way. Arcanine sets up Sunny Day again, and another Fire Blast miss. That's very unfortunate, and unfortunately for Eric, the flamethrower boosted by the sun is going to be enough to take out Magnemortar. In comes Deontay, takes the spikes damage, scares out Arcanine, and out comes Skarmory to eat whatever hit. He clicks the Diamond Storm, doesn't get the defense boost, and shows Hidden Power Fire, assumingly. And that's just going to take out Skarmory. Sends out Mega Medicham, which in turn forces a switch to Spiritomb so that he can't hit any fighting moves. Cinccino comes out to dodge any ghost moves, but Foul Play is just going to take it out, even with the burn. Blissey comes in, revealing Flamethrower. So Deshawn, this means, is not just going for budget Chansey. Blissey having an actual usable special attack stat is huge, and I'm going to assume that based on that Flamethrower, he was predicting Scizor to come in, which would have been a massive prediction, a massive hit to Eric in this team. But now we're just looking at Fat Normal versus not as fat, but Ghost type. One of them is going to have to switch. And there, as we see, Deshawn brings out Raikou for the first time, and Eric swaps to Deontay, and then doubles out into Rotom, but gets hit with the Toxic, which is going to be good for Deshawn and bad for Eric. Deshawn has shown he's more than willing to play the long game. Now we're back to this familiar matchup of Arcanine and Mamo, and since there's no Skarmory, Deshawn decides it's time to let Arcanine go. Doubles out from Medicham into Blissey, and we're back to the stare-off of Blissey and Spiritomb for a hot second. But swapping lets him get a free soft-boiled off. But that Earthquake does a lot and is able to take out Medicham. But I think, not Medicham, Chansey, with Medicham coming in. But I think that Deshawn just decided he needed Raikou and Medicham more than he needed Blissey at the time. Raikou's taking everything that Spiritomb has pretty decently and is going to be able to just, not this turn, but now just finish it off with a Shadow Ball. Scizor comes in, he just keeps clicking Shadow Ball, loses Raikou to a U-turn, comes out into Mamoswine, and now it's Medicham versus the world, which, looking at the matchup, is actually a pretty decent and favorable matchup for Deshawn, with even though Mamoswine does have access to priority, it is still weak to Medicham, potentially Bullet Punch. Scizor, it could be packing Fire Punch. Rotom, maybe he could burn it if he's lucky, but he hasn't revealed Hydro Pump yet. And Deontay could end it with a Moonblast, but we'll see what happens. It's not looking great for Deshawn, but he's not out yet. We see the Bullet Punch taking out Mamoswine from 40. Scizor going for its own Bullet Punch and dying to a high jump kick that, fortunately for Deshawn, connects. Going for another high jump kick, which connects with Rotom Wash, and Bullet Punch is going to be the end for Deontay. And that's the game. The Sandaconda's picking up a really clutch, really close 1-0 victory over the Aegislashers. Eric did a really good job of breaking down Deshawn's bulk and taking out Blissey and Skarmory in the way he did. He definitely came very prepared for Deshawn. This could have been, I've been saying this a bit, but this really could have been either guy's game. It's just very hard to break through Medicham when it's got pure power, and when the one thing you have that outspeeds it is 4 times weak to Bullet Punch, and its priority. Uh, but great game to both of these guys. They really both gave it their all. It really came down to the wire. I couldn't have told you who was going to win going into this, or even halfway through this game. And I think that's just a testament to both of these players. Deshawn's now leading his division 3-0, while Eric falls to a 2-1. But that doesn't mean a whole lot this early. And also, you know, either of these guys could go on to have a stellar performance during their non-divisional matchups. All right, for Game 3 of Week 3, you see myself and the Greenwich Giratinas going up against James and the Myrtle Magikarps. This was a particularly hyped game, anticipated for all the coaches, as both of us were walking into this undefeated and displaying the most dominant victories out of all the coaches so far in this season, although it had only been 2 weeks. Considering how many games had been 1-0, we were definitely putting up the highest numbers. So, while I've described everything as a Clash of the Titans, this was truly the Clash of Titans for divisional supremacy. On the Giratina side, you'll see Mega Gallade and Fernape, Gyarados, Crobat, Steelix, and Sylveon. On the Magikarp side, you'll see Mega Gyarados, Landorus Incarnate, Mienshao, Uxie, Bisharp, and Gengar. Fun little fact for you about this matchup. At the end of last season, James and I made a bet that I lost that saw him picking my Pokemon for rounds 2 and 3. And while I had wanted to bring both of them, I was only able to bring Gyarados, as try as I might, I couldn't find the way and the build proper for the second Pokemon being Zoroark, because I still wanted to win. But regardless, we'll see the lengths that both of us had to go in order to feel like we could secure the win for this matchup. I'm going to take this one a bit slower so I can provide a bit deeper insight into my plays and into my builds, because I can't speak for James, but the thinking that I had to do was a little nutty. So let's we'll see I lead Crobat. He leads Landorus. I'm going to just swap out immediately to Sylveon. And he just gets his rocks up. I didn't want to lose Crobat right away to a rock move. He swaps in Uxie. And I'm just going to click Hyper Voice because he doesn't have anything that really wants to switch into it. He's going to go for Yawn. And I'm just going to click Hyper Voice again. Getting a crit, which is huge because of how fat Uxie is. Because of the Yawn, though, I'm going to have to switch into Crobat, who takes the rocks damage. He's going to click U-turn and send out Landorus, who turn 1 matchup I didn't want, but at this point I just didn't care, and I clicked Nasty Plot, and he goes for Hidden Power Ice. Insight into Crobat. It's not max special attack. It's pretty high up there. His team has so many offensive threats that I needed something that could be quick and not be outsped and just hit everything as hard as possible. And Crobat wound up being that Pokemon with the coverage it could get. So he sends out Uxie onto +2 Crobat. I'm gonna click Heat Wave, only hitting 24% on the switch. I'm gonna get Sludge Bomb, and that's gonna net Crobat KO from Uxie. And I'm sitting here breathing a major sigh of relief because I don't have to deal with Yawn anymore. In comes Mienshao. It's going to click U-turn, which Crobat resists 4 times, and swap back out into Landorus. The third time we've seen this matchup, and I'm just going to click Heat Wave because he doesn't really have anything that wants to swap into Heat Wave. And since I'm faster, Crobat clicks Heat Wave and out and gets the KO against Landorus. In comes Mienshao now, who hits Poison Jab. Takes out Crobat even though it's resisted, but Crobat's done its job. It's taken out Uxie, and it's and one of his bigger offensive threats, so I don't care. Gallade's going to come in and Mega Evolve, predicting a switch, but he reveals that he revealed Scarf before. So he hits Poison Jab, which Gallade resists, and now I'm just going to click Close Combat. Expecting him to say, not predicting a Gengar switch. But now in comes Gengar, and I don't want to lose Gallade, so I bring in Gyarados. One of the issues I faced when building for James is that I didn't have a Gyarados, not a Gyarados switch in. I didn't have a Gengar switch in. I didn't have a Gyarados switch in either, though, to be fair. And that is Gengar's role. Primarily for Gyarados, but he's still decent for Gengar. It's bulky. It's got an Assault Vest. It's got one other little fun thing I like about it, but I'll let you guys see that for yourselves. He's going to stay in and click Shadow Ball because I'm max and AV. I eat it. He swaps out into Gyarados, which I didn't predict. I figured he'd stay in. And I hit him with a Surf. So, this is a fully special Gyarados. 250 modest, 252 special attack EVs with 60 base special attack. Because, again, I needed a Gyarados switch in, and I having watched James's games this season, he loves taking advantage of the fact that we don't have to Mega Evolve on turn 1, which leaves Gyarados very weak to electric typing, despite having a better special defense than physical defense. So he's just going to click Dragon Dance, expecting me to switch out, and I'm just going to click Thunderbolt. Take out his Gyarados before it can do any harm. Special Gyarados did its job. It's ready to go down. He's going to click Thunderbolt himself, take out my Gyarados, which is fine. I get a clean switch into Gengar. Sylveon's going to come in, just in case he's Scarfed. I'm going to click Hyper Voice because Bisharp doesn't really want to take one, and Gengar can take one, but it's not great. I mainly was trying to sack off Sylveon to see if he was Scarfed. Steelix comes in, eats an Iron Head. Was the best thing to do to take a knockoff or an Iron Head from Bisharp, who then swaps out into Gengar. I set my own rocks just for the sake of extra damage, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of switching at this point. He hits Focus Blast, lands it, Steelix goes down. I lose Steelix, it's not the worst thing in the world. Sylveon comes back in. He goes for Focus Blast on Sylveon, which hits but doesn't do much, and I'm just going to sit there, click Hyper Voice. And it looks like he's just locked into Focus Blast and has resigned himself that he can't do anything since Bisharp can't switch into a Hyper Voice. And Sylveon's just going to sit here and just click Hyper Voice until that's game. Bisharp still has to come in. It could Iron Head, but he goes for Sucker Punch, even though he would have been faster. And Hyper Voice just ends the game for Sylveon. Despite how that game went, first of all, good game to James. I have not stressed or had to use as many different parts of my brain in prepping for a match as I had to for this. While James's team was rated really low, and actually is the lowest rated team amongst the commissioners for the NPBF, his offensive threats in Mega Gyarados and not needing to click Mega Evolution the first turn it stays in, Gengar, Bisharp, and Landorus supplemented with Uxie and other bulk that he's got. He even has Webs on his team. His team has a lot of offensive pressure. I don't really have anything that switches into it, so I had to create solutions that I wouldn't have created. That said, I've been wanting to use Special Gyarados since Season 1 of the GBA, ever since Fire Blast Gyarados was the thing that got somebody past round 1 of playoffs. So, I got to live my dream. And for that, I thank you, James. You forced this creativity out of me, and I look forward to our rematch in Week 12. Before we get into Game 4, I just want to apologize if there's any truly disturbing and intrusive background noise while I was in the middle of recording. A lot of work outside of where I live started being done using very loud machinery, and unfortunately this is just the only time that I'm able to record this. Otherwise, I don't know if we'd get this Week 3 recap out. I don't believe that it is going to be so intrusive that it makes the video unwatchable. If it is, you can put the blame on me and nobody else. Certainly not Jeff. Definitely just me. So for this game, we are going to see Jamie and the Brisbane Rillaboomers against Jesse and the J-Dog Jolteons, the other half of the final division matchups that we saw in the previous game with me and James. And while James and I are both sitting at 2-0 prior to this week, these two guys are unfortunately sitting at 0-2. That's just the way the game goes. Fortunately, what it means is that one of these guys will have a win coming out of division, but it does mean that somebody's coming out of this 0-3. They're both just in a funk. It's on record that Jamie doesn't like his team and hates weather. I'm with him. Weather's great, just not for me. Jesse is still figuring his groove out. I think he's kind of allowed to take a bit of a backseat after winning the big one last season. You know, let other people shine anyway. So don't feel too bad down on yourself, Jesse. As for the matchup, for the Rillaboomers, we see Mega Banette, Typhlosion, Umbreon, Tyranitar, Excadrill, and Keldeo. For the Jolteons, we see Empoleon, Zapdos, Chestnut, Crocodile, Rotom Frost, and Cofagrigus. And before we start, I just want to say we've seen a lot of Rotom forms. We've seen 3 Rotom forms out of 4 games right now. That's a lot of representation that Rotom's getting. So good for you, Rotom. Leading off, we see the Mega Banette and Empoleon coming out. Banette just going straight away for the Mega and clicking Taunt. This way Empoleon can't yawn. I would have said Rocks, but can't yawn, which is just as bad. Crook comes in, gets hit by a burn, but the Lum sets it. Remember, we are not in 7th Gen with the Prankster nerf, where Dark types can't be affected by moves that have their priority boost by Prankster. Jesse, I hope you were aware of that when you made that swap. If not, great learning moment. But that's going to be good for Jamie in the long run. It's going to burn Crook's Lumberry, so it makes it harder for him to set up all the Moxies. He's going to swap into Empoleon, who's also going to get hit with a burn. Love seeing the 6th Gen burn damage. Taunted again, so it can't do anything, but he's just going to go for the Scald and do over half and get the burn with that crit. Very lucky for Jesse. But Jamie's just going to go for Prankster Destiny Bond and take down Empoleon, which his team didn't want to handle anyway. Typhlosion and Rotom come in. Typhlosion is just going to click Eruption and just take down Rotom. Cofagrigus is going to come in, and he's just going to do it again and do a good chunk to Typhlosion. Cofagrigus, though, going for Memento, so that Typhlosion's going to have to switch out. But Jamie just doesn't switch out and gets an Eruption at -2 on Chestnut and kills. Crook comes in, finally forcing a switch. In comes Keldeo, who takes enough of an Earthquake to just fire off and knock out Crook from full with a Scald. Zapdos is the only thing he's got left. T-Tar comes in, eats the Volt Switch that was meant for Keldeo. And Zapdos revealing the Tailwind, getting hit by a Stone Edge that Jamie miraculously lands and dying to Sandstorm. I believe that's the quickest game we have this week, sitting at 12 turns, potentially even the season. I would have loved to have seen the plans that Jesse had for this match with Tailwind on Zapdos and everything. In previous weeks, he's shown a lot of creativity and that he's not afraid to bring out the weirder sets to try to throw a Hail Mary with a wacky strategy that if he pulls off will just destroy his opponent. We saw it in week 2 with me and Trick Room Belly Drum Chestnut. I'm sure there was something crazy here, Jesse. Don't stop that creativity. I think it's one of the best qualities you have as a battler. Jesse's gonna find his groove. You know, like I said, he's coming off of winning the season 14 championship last season with us, going over Deshawn in the finals. Jamie, while he hasn't had a good showing in the first 2 weeks compared to what we all expect of him, the Jamie we just saw now is very much in line with the reputation that Jamie has created for himself in the Pokemon community. So getting 5-0'd by Jamie is not an indication that someone's a weak battler. It's not something to be disappointed about. Jamie and Jesse both just had really big chips on their shoulder, and I guess for this game, the chip on Jamie's shoulder was just slightly bigger than Jesse's. But Jesse's going to come back from it. He's going to kick ass. You know, like I said, he's probably one of the more creative guys we have here, although I guess in these 3 weeks I'm giving him a small run for his money, but then again, I'm not going to ever run Memento. So, and here he is doing it twice. All right, boys and girls, 4 down and 4 to go. Next matchup we have is Steven and the Sligo Sandacondas against Anthony and the Windy Cindy Bolt Strikers. Both of these guys not having the best showing in their division yet. Anthony sitting at 0-2 despite the very close games he's been having so far this season. Steven sitting at, I believe, 1-1. I believe he's sitting at 1-1 right now. So both of these guys just want to see a win here. Funny enough, this is the Duel of the Charizards, which is always fun to see in matchups. On the Sligo side, we see Megazard Y, Suicune, Metagross, Mew, Gliscor, and Drapion. On the Bolt Striker side, we see Magnezone, Starmie, Nidoqueen, Breloom, Clefable, and Megazard X. A lot of bulk on these teams, especially Steven. Suicune, Mew, Gliscor, Metagross. It's going to be really annoying for Anthony to have to try to break through. It is knockoff week, but we don't, unless he's got knockoff or anything dark really on any of his Mons, it's going to be tough to break through. Same with Ghost coverage. Whereas Anthony just has some bulk with a lot of offense that he's going to need to wear down Steven's team. So let's get in. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll see a turn 1 Charizard versus Charizard. But instead, we see Gliscor leading against Starmie, clicking Protect so that it can ensure it gets its Toxic Heal, swapping out immediately, going into Suicune so that it could just eat the Scalds that Starmie has, but swapping out again into Metagross. Oh, revealing the Toxic. A very smart play, dodging the Toxic on Suicune on Steven's part. Mew comes in, gets the burn, in turn burns Starmie, but that's not going to be a big deal as it has Natural Cure, and the red card forces out into Clefable. Mew's just going to set rocks, and Clefable is just going to click Moonblast and get the special attack drop. But Mew's just going to click Soft Boiled, and Clef is going to click Wish. Maybe for itself, maybe it's going to pass. It's going to pass it to Starmie, I guess expecting more damage. And here, now we see again the stare down between Starmie and Suicune, which becomes Drapion, Starmie getting rid of the rocks. Now we see Drapion versus Magnezone with an Air Balloon. Clicking, hitting knockoff, losing the balloon, and then going right down to Earthquake before Magnezone even has the chance to do anything. Nidoqueen comes out, scares out Drapion, with the fear of Earth Power and Mew taking a solid amount of damage, and Anthony able to set his own rocks while Mew is just forced to click Soft Weld. Clicking Defog while Anthony hits Ice Beam, and Nidoqueen's just able to take out Mew through the Defog. In comes Charizard on a Starmie switch in. Set and Sun, clicking Flamethrower, doing a lot to Starmie despite the resistance. Anthony brought Rain Dance, Starmie, to stop and hinder Sunny Day Charizard. Not Sunny Day, but Drought Charizard Y. That is huge. It shut down Solar Beam. Now Anthony can just switch in to whatever he feels like. His own Charizard, probably. But that was such a smart decision on Anthony's part to just shut down Charizard Y, because if you just let it sit in the sun and click Solar Beam or Sun Boosted Fire Stab, you're not going to have fun. So he's going to click the Rain Boosted Scald, get the Hydro, and live the Solar Beam, just because Starmie is kind of bulky, especially. Suicune comes in, hits Scald, but doesn't really care about it. And Anthony's just content to just stay in and keep clicking Scald. The Toxic's not going to matter because it'll be gone once he swaps out in the first place. Suicune, though, swapping out first into Drapion, taking the Rain Boosted Scald, doing over half. And yeah, Anthony has no reason to switch and not just click Scald. But Drapion swaps out so he can be preserved for Suicune, and this is going to be the matchup we see the most. Starmie switching out though for Clefable. Just takes the Scald, no burn. Metagross comes in, but Anthony predicts that and swaps out into Nidoqueen, who outspeeds, gets a crit Earth Power, and is able to just take out the Metagross, which is a massive threat. Charizard comes in, sets up the Sun, hits Flamethrower, but it's not strong enough to take out Nidoqueen, who's able to just take it out itself with Thunderbolt. Drapion comes in, is able to knock off and take out Nidoqueen, but it did its job. But Drapion showing the agility, now able to take out Starmie, who was able to survive a Scald from thanks to the Sun. This is actually a threat, but Breloom could just click Mach Punch, which he does on Gliscor. Gliscor sets up a sub. Anthony clicking Bullet Sleeve with Breloom to break the sub. The multi-hit moves are huge. He's just going for the substitute again, and Anthony not letting him get a sub for free, just keeps clicking Bullet Seed, only getting 2 hits each time. Protect this time so it can recover HP. It needs the Poison Heal, missing the Toxic on Breloom, and Breloom being able to get a Bullet Seed off for free, this time getting 4 hits instead of 2, and doing major damage to Gliscor, and there's really no reason for Anthony to not just stay in and just keep clicking Bullet Seed, going for the double protect to try to survive. But unfortunately, it's not going to work. Gliscor goes down to Bullet Seed. Drapion comes in. Just going to go down to a Mach Punch, Technician boosted. Suicune comes in. Anthony clicks Spore so he can safely just do what he wants. Hit Bullet Seed and hit the end of the game. But only hits twice and not enough to take out Suicune. But another turn of sleep ensures the game for Anthony and the Bolt Strikers. Good game to both guys. Would have liked to have seen a duel of the Charizards, but maybe we'll see it in Week 12. Really good to see Anthony get a win. Steven will bounce back. Had a tremendous showing in the D-League the previous season. I'm sure he will do the same going forward. It's only Week 3. And he's had good showings already, so I don't think that this loss is anything to be beat up about. I'm interested to see the momentum that both of these guys end up bringing into their future weeks, as we'll see who their opponents are when we get to the Week 4 review. But nothing more to say. Just a really good game, really back and forth. Steven had a lot of bulk that Anthony needed to figure out how to overcome, and he did. Just plain and simple. For our next game is yet another meeting of the 0-2s in Allen and the Manila Medals, and Gavino, aka Rennie's baby daddy, and the Venice Beach Bikinis. I love that Gavino made that his new showdown ID. It's accurate, and I love him even more for doing it, which I didn't think was possible. Both these guys coming in with something to prove, seeking to get their first win of the season, both of whom fell victim to Eric and Deshawn. Allen has a very scary team with Chandelure, Thunderous Therian, Landorus Therian, Mega Absol, Armaldo, and Snorlax. In particular, the two Therians are they're a real problem. Those things hit real hard. And you just don't want to come up against them. Gavino, though, has the team with the 3 base 100 Pixies, and he brought them with Jirachi, Mega Manectric, Dusclops, I would say his favorite Pokemon, Seismitoad, Victini, and Shaman. All of these really solid, really good offensive teams. Interested to see which of these guys just has a bigger chip on their shoulder. Alright, we lead off with Thunderous against Seismitoad. Seismitoad stayed in, probably predicting a Volt Switch, but instead he brought through Hidden Power Grass, which is a great bring for Allen. That Seismitoad was going to present an issue for his team, and being able to get it down that low in turn 1 is definitely going to be huge for him. Gab just happy to get his rocks out, but swaps out to Shaman, predicting an HP Grass, goes for a Volt Switch instead, which is still fine, and then goes into Armaldo. Shaman doubles out into Dusclops, who reveals the Life Orb and blocks the spin. Stays in, expecting another rapid spin, but Armaldo's just content to click Knock Off, and get rid of the Eviolite, while Dusclops misses the burn, which is very unfortunate for Gav. Armaldo's just gonna keep clicking Knock Off, while Dusclops clicks Nightshade, and then Dusclops just goes down to Knock Off, with Armaldo itself nearly down from Life Orb damage. Jirachi's gonna come in, click U-turn for momentum. Good move on Gavino's part. Send out Shaman, and in comes Chandelure. Good on Allen, but Shaman revealing that it's faster, hitting the Earth Power, probably thinking it could kill, but it doesn't matter because Chandelure went for a sub it couldn't hit. Shaman outsped, killed with the Air Slash. In comes Lando, forces out a switch to Seismitoad, who now U-turns into Thunderous, which Allen knows that Gav doesn't want to stay in on. But instead, he lets Seismitoad go down so that he can get a free switch in. Thunderous showing that it's got knockoff. In comes Jirachi with a Scarf Ice Punch crit. I'm not sure if the crit mattered, but that would have done really huge damage. I don't believe a knockoff would have killed, but it certainly would have made it so Jirachi wouldn't outspeed Thunderous anymore. In which case, well, depending on how much the first knockoff did, the second knockoff may or may not have KO'd. If he had Dark Pulse, that may have been safer if knockoff was strictly for Jirachi, but the utility of it is still good. But in comes Landorus, hitting the Intimidate, not caring that Jirachi is scarfed. But Jirachi doesn't care, just clicks Ice Punch. Lando lives because of the Intimidate drop, gets the crit Earthquake, and takes down Jirachi. In comes Manectric, who Megas, hits its own Intimidate, but just goes right down to Earthquake. Now we know he's scarfed. Gavino obviously wouldn't have known that it was scarfed previously, since his own Jirachi was scarfed and would have outsped. Anyway, so he took a gamble. Definitely clicked HP Ice. Probably the same move I would have done, to be honest. Shaman's really the only thing he had that wanted to come in and on Lando, and I would have wanted to keep Victini personally. So So Shaman comes in, eats the Earthquake, and just clicks Air Slash. Seeing the damage that Earthquake did, for differential sake, if Gavino cared much about having Manectric, he probably should have swapped in to Shaman on that first Earthquake. But looking at what he's got left with Absol and Snorlax, Manectric probably wasn't going to do too much anyway, except for maybe outspeeding the Absol, since the Snorlax was just going to eat whatever special hit he had. So it's probably the right call for him. We're going to see Snorlax come in. Speaking of the devil, he's just going to click Seed Flare, gets the special defense drop, and Snorlax is just going to set up a curse. But because of that spit drop, the damage from the Seed Flare is going to be enough to take out Snorlax, who really didn't get to do much. Absol comes in, Megas, hits a Sucker Punch, hoping to get the kill, doesn't kill, and Gavino's just able to click Dazzling Gleam and take out Absol. So congrats to the Victinis getting their first win of the season. Alan, I know being 0-3 sucks. I've been there. Been there at the start of the season. You'll bounce back. You had a good showing in D-League. You're spoken of very highly by the Goon Squad. Alan also did recently make a couple trades and pickups, at least one trade. So maybe that will do a bit more for his team than what he's currently working with. But it is, as we've said, it's a cutthroat season. Competition's real stiff. You know, people have to lose. People have to be on losing ends of games, and that's just the way it is. And that's one of those things that it sucks for Alan. It sucks for Jesse. It sucks for anyone who's on a big losing streak right now. But just know you guys will bounce back. You wouldn't be in main league if you weren't good at what you do. We all know you're good at what you do. Gav's just not predictable. Our penultimate game of the week is a battle for NPBF control as it pits founder and former head of the league, James, against current head commissioner for the NPBF, and also the voice you guys are very much used to hearing in these videos, Jeff. So we see the Brave Birds against the Memphis Brave Birds against the Anaheim Appletons. Both these guys coming in, doing good work. Jeff sitting at 2-0, James sitting at 1-1. They're both two really great, really top battlers. James being a two-time champ. Jeff not hitting the big one, but still proving time and time again what he's got. And so this is a game I was very looking forward to seeing. I don't know how much anybody else was, but this was one of my most anticipated matches of the week for sure. On the Brave Bird side, we see Doug Trio, which does have Arena Trap, as we have seen in previous weeks. Heatran, Mega Gardevoir, Togetic, Salamence, and Hitmonlee. On the Appleton side, we see Thunderous Incarnate, Frostlass, Mega Sceptile, Donphan, Blastoise, and Hoopa Unbound. Hoopa Unbound being one of the few reasons that we have to play these games in Ubers, since it was an Uber at the time. Jeff's got a lot of bulk between his two spinners. He could set hazards and some fast and hard hitters. Not so fast with Hoopa, but hard and fast with Sceptile. Whereas James has just a really solid mix of both bulk, utility, and offense. So it'll be interesting to see what these two brought for one another. So let's just get right into it. Starting off, we have Mega Gardevoir and Blastoise. Gardevoir tracing the Torrent, decides to just stay in, click Hyper Voice, and Blastoise misses the Toxic, so Gardevoir has no reason to not just stay in, click the Hyper Voice, and knock out Blastoise early. Donphan comes in, scares out Gardevoir. Out comes Togetic, who unfortunately loses its Eviolite to knock off. Frostlass comes in for a switch for Donphan, hits Shadow Ball. The crit Dazzling Gleam takes it down low, though. And Togetic just decides it's going to roost up onto the Thunderous switch. Thunderous clicking HP Ice over, probably expecting a Dog Trio swap, but it's able to click Thunderbolt the next turn and take out Togetic. It's able to now paralyze Gardevoir, which is going to be huge, but Gardevoir doesn't care. It just starts wishing and clicking Hyper Voice so that it can preserve itself, and down goes Thunderous. Donphan comes in, hits an Earthquake, does massive damage, but no fear from Gardevoir, no para, hits the Hyper Voice, but Donphan's able to knock it down with Ice Shard. Hitmonlee comes in, gets a close combat to take out Donphan. Sceptile comes in, Megas, Hitmonlee clicks Endure, expecting to be taken down to 1 so that it can get its Lychee Berry, outspeed, and crit close combat the Sceptile. The sets that James brings, man. That Hitmonlee set with the Lychee Berry to raise Hitmonlee's attack and get the Unburden boost so that it outseeds Sceptile and is just able to click close combat is brilliant. Alongside Endure, just chef's kiss, James. Like, that's like, I think that might be better than my special. That might be better than my special Gyarados bring this week. Hoopa comes in and just goes down to a close combat. Now comes Frostlass, and Hitmonlee is able to outspeed thanks to Unburden and click Blaze Kick, and at a hefty 4-0 win for the Brave Birds. Game was deceiving in terms of skill. The biggest thing I believe for a draft is you can only prepare so much. You know, you can prepare for certain Pokemon, you can prepare for like more typical builds or items, but you can't prepare for weird stuff. You couldn't prepare for that Hitmonlee set, no matter how hard you racked your brain. Even if Jeff did come up with it, he would have been foolish to focus all his prep expecting Lychee Berry and Endure on Unburden Hitmonlee. Like, you just can't predict stuff like that. So kudos to James. He dug deep, did the prep he needed to, saw the utility that he could find in his Pokemon, saw an opening, just went for it. And that's what we should strive to be doing in this season with such stiff competition. We really have to dig deep into our pools of resources and just pull out what we have to in order to get the win. And I hope to see more of us doing this over the next 9 weeks. Yeah, 9 weeks. A good game to both of you guys. Both sitting at 2-1. Looking forward to seeing where you both go as the season progresses.
Just wanted to give my thoughts real quick on this game as well, since I'm here, editing it and everything, and rewatching it. Very simply put, obviously, like, the Toxic Mist at the beginning kind of stunk, because I would have been able to deal with the Gardevoir a little bit better in the long run, but at the end of the day, he played way better. Like, him leading Gardevoir just kind of put me on the back foot turn 1, and I could not regain any momentum off of it. It was as simple as that. He got himself into the exact positions he needed, and that Hitmonlee set was brilliant. So, simply put, James out-prepped me, outplayed me, and stomped me out. It happens to the best of us, so I'm very much humble enough to admit that. It was a fantastic game. Me and James always have really solid matchups, so I can never complain about a match I have against James. I always have a great time, and it's always a absolute banger. So looking forward to our eventual rematch at the end of the season. It's going to be a fire matchup, as I'm sure you will have expected from all of us by then. But let's toss it back to Alex for the last.
Our final game of the week, ladies and gentlemen, and it pits Jason and the Niflheim Ninetailers against Liam and the Auckland Ambipoms. Liam's currently sitting at 1-1. Well, Jason having a bit of a rough season to start being 0-2. Both guys coming in with something to prove. Liam having just barely missed out on winning the big one a few seasons back. Jason not being a finals contender yet, but always having a good showing in NPBF seasons. So this will be a good one. Also, they are two of the only 3 people that are in relatively the same time zone as one another because of our New Zealand guys and our Australian guys. So they had the easiest time arranging games for one another compared to the rest of us when we want to play them just because of the time zone craziness. All right, let's look at the matchup. On the Ninetailer side, we see regular Raichu, Ferrothorn, Entei, Megalopunny, Togekiss, and Latios. For the Ambipomps, we see Mamoswine, regular Deontay, Jolteon, Darmanitan, Milotic, and Ambipom. No Mega on Liam's side, which may be a first this season. It may not be. I'm not sure. It's very rare that you see a draft where someone doesn't bring their Mega. But it happens. Liam must have just decided that Mega Venusaur wasn't a good bring here. And, with Latios and Togekiss, I get it. I totally get it. Completely get it. Makes 100% sense. I think this is a good squad. This is going to be surely back and forth. A lot of bulk on Liam's end, especially with some hard hitters on Jason's end. And hopefully for Jason, his offense is going to be enough to break through Liam's bulk and get his first win for the season. So to start off, we see Megalopunny leading in against Ambipom, the battle of the fake-out users. But Ambipom is able to go first since Lopunny doesn't get the speed turn 1, but it shows Life Orb. They both double out for Ferrothorn and Milotic. Milotic then doubling out into Darmanitan, and Ferrothorn able to get a Leaf Seed off. Entei comes in expecting a big Flare Blitz, but instead he U-turns out into Deontay, so that Deontay can eat whatever fire move he wants, and instead he just goes to Raichu and lets Deontay get the rocks up. Milotic comes in expecting a rock, expecting something. He hits him with a Surf. In comes Jolteon expecting a Volt Switch on Milotic, blocking the electric move from Raichu. Hits the Hidden Power Ground. Great bring, and just takes out Raichu. Deontay comes in on the Megalopunny. Able to land a high jump kick, but not able to take it down in one, but the second one connects with a crit and goes down. He fakes out with for Darmanitan via Ambipom. In comes Ferrothorn, who reveals the Alkaberry, but still goes down to a Flare Blitz because, my god, Darmanitan is too strong. Lopunny comes in and is able to outspeed and connect with another high jump kick. But Ambipom comes in and scares it out with the fake out damage. So in comes Entei, just do what it wants to do. Milotic comes in its place, expecting Sacred Fire, but he clicks E-Speed instead. Latios replaces Entei, while Milotic decides to cover, clicks Defog, so that Entei isn't dead on arrival, and Milotic's just going to Toxic Latios so that it can't stay in for too long. Latios switches out into Togekiss, who also gets Toxic Poison, but I assume he's going to want to click Heal Bell while Milotic swaps in, but instead he goes for Air Slash, getting a crit on the Jolteon. And he is a Scarf Togekiss that outspeeding, hoping for the flinch, but doesn't get it, unfortunately. So Jolteon's able to hit Volt Switch, take out Kiss, go into Milotic against Lopunny, and then Milotic's able to Scald and take out Lopunny. Latios comes in, scares it out, misses the Meteor on Piloswine, very unfortunate, but is able to get the second Meteor, doing 60%. But Piloswine's able to hit the minus priority Avalanche, take out Latios, and Entei scares out Milotic, but is able to take it down with a crit Stone Edge. Very impressive. But in preserving Ambipom, Liam was able to keep Fake Out around, which is going to do it for Entei. Good game to both guys. Liam's team is really hard to break through. especially with hyper offense. You really need to set up. That Milotic is a real problem in his hands. It's really hard to break down. Losing Ferrothorn early really made it an uphill struggle for Jason. And I'm sure the Week 12 rematch between them is going to be very intense. Same thing I said to Alan, Jason, regarding being 0-3. It sucks, but it's nothing to beat yourself up on. We all know it. The competition's super stiff. You know, any of us could have been 0-3. It could have happened to anybody. I could go 3-9 at this point. I could just not win another game. And I wouldn't even be surprised. That's how good the competition is. So you're gonna bounce back. I'm actually very thankful that I'm not facing your team because Megalopunny's kind of a problem for me. I'm not looking forward to facing Liam, however, in a few weeks, but I'll have to cross that bridge when I get there. Congrats to Liam, bringing in 2-1 and tying Rennie for the division lead with the differential, even though they have the same score as Chris. But that does it for our final game of Week 3. Next, we're going to move on to one of our more fun segments. Alrighty, for our second to last segment, we will go over the kill leaders. Got some interesting movement this week. Let's just get right into it. Sitting at number 1 with the highest kills at 8 with 1 death, differential of 7 is Talonflame from the LA Darkrise. Not a surprise. Brave Bird everything. I don't really need to say anything else. Dropping from number 1 to number 2 though is the Mega Gyarados from Magikarp, sitting at 7 kills, 2 deaths with a +5 differential. Not able to get any deaths this week, thanks to Special Gyarados, instead just knocking it out. This thing is still a monster in James's hands, though, and it's still gonna be relevant on this list. At number 3, we have the Sylveon from the Greenwich Giratina, sitting at 6-0 with a +6 differential. Sylveon's currently the only Pokemon on the leaderboard that has not been knocked out in battle yet. If this was anybody else narrating the leaderboards, a hit would be put out on Sylveon right now, so that all's fair in love and war. But it's not all fair. Since it's all fair in love and war, I'm not putting a hit on Sylveon. I love Sylveon. Sylveon's like one of my favorite Pokemon. It's on my team.
I need it to be known, this favoritism will not stand. There is officially a hit on Sylveon. Kill the ribbony dog cat thing. Murder it. Murder it with extreme prejudice. Thank you. Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
If you guys can't kill it, that's your problem. Pixelate is, and all the 8 abilities are not nerfed yet, as we're in Gen 6, so they do hit harder. There's not a whole lot that really likes taking a Hyper Voice from Sylveon, and that's why it's there. Plain and simple. At number 4, we have Megalopunny from the Ninetales, sitting at 6 kills, 3 deaths, and a 3 differential. Megalopunny's just really good. Nothing else to say about that. Also sitting at 6-3, again representing the Darkrise is Weavile. Same thing. Weavile's fast, hits hard. Not surprising. Next up of our beginning our massive list of 5 kills, 1 death, +4 differential is Mega Deontay from the Aegislashers, Mega Sceptile from the Appletons, Milotic from the Ambipom, and Suicune from the Sligo. This is a tale of 2 halves of these 4 Mons. We have 2 really offensive Pokemon in Mega Deontay and Mega Sceptile, and then 2 really bulky Pokemon in Milotic and Suicune. 2 bulky water types at that. And these things, be it that they just outspeed and click buttons and kill things, or they just don't die themselves. Especially the Milotic in Liam's hands. Not surprising that it's on here. I'm sure it'll keep being on here. And for our number 10 slot is Mamoswine, coming from the East Coast Iga Slashers, sitting at 5 kills, 2 deaths, +3 differential. Mamoswine's really good. That's all it is. We have some honorable mentions as well, because we do have some other Pokemon sitting at 5 and 2, but they just don't come alphabetically before Mamoswine. And that would be Shaman of the Venice Beach Victinis, also sitting at 5 and 2, and Mega Alakazam from the Nottingham Nihiligos sitting at 5 and 2. Both really good Pokemon. Especially Alakazam outspeeds everything and hits like a truck. I won't be surprised if those two move up in the ranks, especially considering how highly their coaches value them. And last but not least, we look ahead to our Week 4 matchups. The first round of games that is not going to be divisional-based matchups. As you can see, some of the games have already taken place, as I am recording this late into the 2-week span of Week 4. But results are hidden, so nobody gets to get spoiled before the Week 4 recap goes up. So for our first matchup, we see the Appletons and the Victinis. Jeff looking to reclaim some momentum after his loss against James, while Gav looks to keep the momentum going from Allen. These two always are fun to watch when they go at it, so I'm very looking forward to it. Next up is the Myrtle Magikarps versus the Niflheim Ninetailers. Both men looking to rise up after a loss in Week 3. James looking to reclaim the momentum he had going forward, while Jason is looking to get that elusive first win of the season. It's just going to come down. It's going to come down to who outplays who in this one and what they both bring, because I'd say it's a fairly even matchup. Honestly, their biggest concern is just scheduling a game around the massive time difference they got. Round 3 is another massive Clash of the Titans that I'm really, really excited for. Rennie and the LA Darkrai's versus Jamie and the Brisbane Rillaboomers. Rennie coming off a massive win against Chris, and Jamie coming off his first win of the season. Jamie's really looking forward to facing Rennie for the first time seriously. And he's really looking to keep going and try to perform well in spite of how much he dislikes his team. But Rennie's on a hot streak. Brave Bird everything is a problem. This could be a tough matchup for Jamie, but I don't think it's completely in the realm of impossibility for him. Next up, we have the East Coast Ice Slashers against the Sligo Sandacondas. Both men coming off a loss. Steven, I would imagine, being a bit more hungry, being in D-League promote, off the winner and the runner-up, but with only sitting at 1 win, really seeking to prove himself and show he belongs here outside of earning his spot in the D-League. Eric just needs to break through the bulk. They both need to break through each other's bulk in offense. I don't think there's a real clear-cut matchup here where I don't think there's either of these guys are favored. It'll be one to watch. Next up are the Jolteons and the Ambipoms. Liam just looking to keep doing what he does, and that's win games. He just wins games. He lost against Chris, but that was incredibly close. Either man's game to the top. Liam, I don't even think Liam lost last season up until the playoffs. And if he did, it was once. Jesse looking to get his first win of the season. He made a bunch of trades and transactions that would be good for this week. Hopefully, they'll be able to start filling some of the holes that he finds himself missing. And maybe this will be the start of some real success for Jesse. I'm really excited for this one. All right, next is a battle I'm personally very invested in between the Windy City Bolt Strikers and the Bridgeport Sandacondas. Both men, people that I respect immensely as battlers, build for them, with them. These guys both know their stuff. They play very differently from one another, though. Anthony's going to be coming in looking to be the first person to truly break through, because we saw Eric do it this week, but break through and defeat Deshawn. Eric broke through Scar and Bliss, but he didn't defeat him. So Anthony coming in with something to prove, especially coming off of his first win of the season. Deshawn looking to keep up his undefeated streak. I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be my game of the week, personally. And I hope you guys are looking forward to it, because it's going to be a good one. All right, second to last, Nottingham Nile Egos and Chris versus myself and the Greenwich Guillotinas. This is a game I've been dreading for a very long time. I'm going to be honest. I have not beaten Chris. I did not get to face Chris in NPBF, though. Up until this matchup was announced, we've never been scheduled to face each other. We battled each other outside of here. I'm looking to keep my streak alive, as well as prove something, and finally beat him. Chris, wanting to show back up after that game against Rennie. Get another win back, especially with how tough his division is, how competitive his division is with Rennie and Liam and Jason. So, it's going to be a good one. I'm sweating. Megazam is scary. Plain simple. Megazam is scary, Garchomp is scary, Conkeldurr is scary. Send me your energy, I guess. And then last but not least, we have the Manila Medals, coached by Alan, taking on Memphis Bravebirds and James. Alan looking to come in, get his first win. James just doing what he does, comes in, not be bothered. He'll do what he wants to do. Whether or not that's the stuff he wants to do is what Alan expects him to do, who's to say? I've given up on predicting James after this week. And hopefully Alan doesn't, hit his head over the wall too many times trying to figure out what exact set James is going to bring after the game James had against Jeff in this past week in Week 3. Well, so that's going to wrap it up for the Week 3 recap. I appreciate you all for bearing with me, me being solo and not being Jeff. I apologize again if there was any really intrusive noise in my background, but I don't believe it would have been that bad. Again, blame me if it is. If this video is not, watchable, just blame me. Don't blame Jeff. Don't blame any of the other commissions. I'm not usually the guy who records it. I'm usually just another guy talking if I'm even here. So hopefully next week we'll be back with the Week 4 recap in a more normal time slot. Hopefully there'll be 2 of us. Whether I'm one of them or not, who's to say? We'll see what happens and who's available to record. But until next time, guys, this is Alex. Coaches, do your prep. Have fun. Fans, stay tuned for the next round of games.